everybody. Thank you for coming on back to this very fantastic session. This is one that I am looking very much forward to. And you're probably asking yourself, who is this guy and why is Danny gone? And I really do apologize. It was a last minute switch in. Danny actually has got a bit of a emergency that he had to go after. So if you could really type down in the chat, just like, hey, Danny, come on back. I want this guy to be introducing people on talks anymore. Then it will make him feel really, really good. But we have two fantastic people. We have Uptin from uptin.co. He was going to be interviewing Andrey. And Andrey, we were chatting before we actually jumped on. And I got to tell you, this is going to be, if you are running a SaaS business, this is probably going to be one of the most interesting sessions you're ever going to see. I think we're going to be able to see a lot of the stuff that hopefully, that not many people are able to kind of see, which is a hyper-growth company that's completely blowing all of the records. So I'm really excited to be able to check this out. Uptin, why don't you take it over?
Awesome. Thanks so much. And thank you, Andrey, for your time. Really appreciate it and excited to be here. So I just want to dive right in. Let's get to know Miro. You've had an explosive year of growth over the past year. I think something like 6 times growth in revenue. So tell us a little bit first, set up the scene. What is Miro and how does it work?
Yeah, thank you. Great to be here and thanks for inviting me. Miro is an online whiteboarding collaborative platform that people use to work on things like agile ceremonies, design thinking, workshops, brainstorming sessions, a bunch of other stuff. Some people even run the whole company on Miro. We actually have a startup offering where we support startups who are out of like the new journey, and we provide them free Miro licenses. And there are some companies that said like even run the whole company on Miro without using any other tool. So Miro is that kind of space where your team meet, create, and move things forward. And that's what we're building for the last 10 years. Actually, this May, we are celebrating 10 years of the company journey. And pandemic, majority of people start to learn about Miro during pandemic, but we were here for a while and we were building this thing for a long time.
Great. And how do you think that the pandemic specifically accelerated your growth? I mean, obviously companies around the world went remote, but you said earlier you think a lot of this growth would have already happened with or without the pandemic and the switch to remote work. But how specifically do you think the value proposition stood out for your clients?
Sure. We were growing pretty fast before pandemic. We were growing around 3x year over year. And what happened during pandemic, the problem shifted. So people have to connect with each other and explain ideas and co-create things together, being fully remote or fully distributed. And that was not the case across all companies before. And it started to be a case during pandemic. And people start to kind of figure out what will be the most effective way to do that. I'm happy to see that the majority discovered and stick to Miro because we were there, to support that growth.
Uptin, maybe you dropped off. I'm going to continue on without you. And once you can pop back on, let us know. All right, so we have, 1 second, and let me just.
I am back. I just got a notification connection loss. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Good?
I can, fine.
Perfect. I want to know, Andrey, you have more than 600 employees. So how exactly do you create company culture, particularly when you have two things kind of working against company culture, which is explosive growth, right? That's hard enough, even if you were all in one city in one building, but you're not, right? You're remote. So how the heck do you even begin to create a culture around Miro when you're dealing with these two issues?
It's a great question. We entered pandemic when we were around 220 people, and actually now we're more than 750 people. So
Wow.
we like almost quadrupled during this time, and we believe that the culture starts with values and starts with the leaders you bring into the company. So when we start to operationalize a bunch of things that before kind of happened organically. For example, we built peer learning groups. So what it means is that when people join the company, there is a special person who is doing the whole onboarding into the company culture. And these peer learning groups happen for a couple of weeks. And we connect together like engineer from Amsterdam, salesperson from Austin, marketing person from San Francisco, and finance person from, let's say, New York together. And they go through the cultural learning experience together. And they learn like our core values, what we believe in, and how to kind of behave and do things in line with those values. So that's one of the things that we did. Of course, we do kind of 360 type of thing, and we do it 2 times a year. And we have our values rubric, and we try to provide each other feedback, not only on what people achieved or not achieved, but also on how they did it. And the how is like also 360 type of review, and that how is in a lot of ways driven by the values that we have, and we want to kind of communicate each other expectations in the way how we design that in terms of these values. And then in terms of leadership, we are really conscious about who we bring in. We have a ton of interviews. Like we are that company that do like a lot of series of interviews, and we try to make sure that this leader is not just knowing what to do to take the company to the next level, but also how to do it, and also how to build the best kind of practices. And of course, in some cases, we even have to part ways because of that. If something doesn't work, we have to part ways, unfortunately. But it's hard. I mean, we're all in this. It's hard to understand how your culture looks like through Zoom. It's hard to understand what people feel before that Zoom meeting started or after that Zoom meeting finishing. So it's like, it's really hard. And I think that we will see it better once we're back to our hubs across the globe.
So that's a good segue into what is the plan for you all? I mean, you have a lot of companies, we heard it earlier with the Twitter, you have a lot of companies having to rethink what is the future going to look like? Is it all remote? Is it giving employees the option of all remote? Is it all in person? We're seeing a lot of companies come up with a hybrid model, come 3 days a week. So what is it going to be for Miro?
Yeah, we believe in hybrid work. We believe that this local communities in hubs can be a very powerful thing, where people can feel each other back, where people can connect socially, where some ad hoc creativity happens, like water cooler type of creativity and conversations, where there can be cross-pollination of information between people. So we believe in that. We also see that people want to kind of work and maybe focus when they're working like on their own, and we're going to have this hybrid work. We already have 9 hubs. We're in the process of opening another 2 these days, so it will be 11 hubs across the globe, and we expect that people would be 3 days in the office and a couple of days working from anywhere. So that's our vision for the future of how we plan to work as a company.
And how do you think other companies are going to move forward post-pandemic, and particularly, you know, as it relates to collaboration through tools like Miro? I mean, is it bad if companies go all in person? I would imagine that's you know, not as good for Miro as if everyone says we're staying remote.
I believe that every company has their own challenges and goals, and it's hard to say what is the right thing and what is the wrong thing for companies. I personally would prefer not to see this pandemic and hypergrowth for Miro. I would prefer to live in a normal world and where we just develop as people as we did. But now there are a lot of things changing, and I think that majority of companies will work in a hybrid setting. That's what I would expect. And there will be a subset of companies who will be fully remote and a subset of companies who will be fully co-located. But I believe the majority will have this hybrid model where they will have hubs for social connection, for some kind of multi-day type of interactions and brainstorms, but at the same time, they will allow people to connect from anywhere and yeah, be in that more distributed setting.
Amazing. I want to talk a little bit about the funding journey that you've been on, Andrey. So you were written up in TechCrunch last year for your Series B, $50 million. So talk to me a little bit about what's happened since, and particularly around the pandemic. So I think that was announced just 2 months after pretty much the world went into lockdown, companies went remote. So talk to me what's it been like in terms of fundraising, investors, and sort of leveraging what's happened with remote work as part of the value proposition of Miro.
Yeah. So the announcement went out in April, but we actually closed round in March, and that fundraise was not connected anyhow to the pandemic. The fun fact is that we planned to have a March fundraise back in September of the previous year, and we actually executed on that round. So it was not connected anyhow with the pandemic, and it didn't change anything. It was, as I said, like planned ahead. And during pandemic, our business growth just accelerated. So, but we were running a break-even business since 2016. So we were raising more to have, like, more insurance in the bank rather than to fund the business. So, and during pandemic, we became pretty profitable. Yeah. It didn't change anything or much, but what actually we got out of that fundraise, we got another very strong partner for our company and team because Iconiq joined us, and before we had Accel and Altair, and Iconiq is extremely strong partner in terms of building the business and going through the hypergrowth, and that's what actually changed for us. Is like we got another very strong partner in this journey. That was the major outcome of that fundraise, actually.
Great. And I want to know in terms of competitors, who do you see as your competitor?
The market is changing, and of course there are some products that we kind of may know, is like Miro. We are together in this space for a while. There is Lucid, who is switching to this space. There is FigJam that was launched recently. These are companies who are working in this visual space for some time, and some of them just launching more of the solutions, trying to get into our space and trying to get closer to our type of use cases and user base. And then I believe there will be some like bigger tech companies who will enter this space pretty soon. So the space is becoming pretty crowded, but we think a couple steps ahead, and we're trying to build the experiences that do not exist on the market today. And I hope we will delight our users and customers later this year with a couple of things that we are working on, because I believe that the space that we kind of discovered and built will be somehow commoditized, and it's not the end destination for us. We want to go toward our mission, empower teams to create the next big things by providing best solutions for collaboration. And there are so many things that we can build toward that mission and delight the customers that's why we're excited. It's not about, hey, let's get everyone on this current whiteboarding platform and that's it. No, there are plans way beyond that.
Okay, can you share, you started to elaborate, can you elaborate a little bit more on what are the plans beyond that?
I'm trying to build a company more like an Apple, where you deliver and then tell, rather than tell and then deliver or not deliver. So let's keep it for our upcoming conferences.
Sounds good. Okay, fair enough. And I want to know in terms of back to funding, Andrey. So and also please, if you're in the audience, do submit your questions. We're going to get to some audience questions with Andrey in just a few minutes. So I encourage you to submit those. But to go back to funding, Andrey, what's your insight right now in the state of funding, right? It used to be like, you can't, if 2 years ago, it's like, there's no way you're going to raise 10, 20, $30 million from Silicon Valley, unless you go to Silicon Valley, unless you shake some hands, unless you rub elbows with some people, right? But now we're seeing companies do it left and right because it's the only way. So do you think, like, how do you value the process of getting funding? Do you think it's changed? Do you think it's like easier than ever, or is it harder than ever for those people watching who are in the process of seeking funding?
Sure. I think that funding becoming more and more commoditized. And I was raising before pandemic, and I didn't go to Silicon Valley to raise funds. I can share that both fundraisers that we had with round A and round B, partners travel and fly to the place where I was at that time. So, and they travel from their kind of locations. So I believe that if you're building the right thing, if you are building something for where you dream big as a vision, where you do a scalable business model, where you build a strong culture and the team that can execute toward that vision and execute that scalable business model. If you have a very strong connection with your customers and users and build something they would be delighted and they would be excited about, I think that funding is not a question at all. Like, regardless of where you're located, how you're trying to fundraise, I can tell you that I'm trying to build the inbound mentality in the company and with myself, so where all things in ideal world come to you. So when you build a product and then you think how to make an inbound marketing, so your people will discover your product or have a word of mouth, and then how you build the kind of HR brand that people would love to apply for jobs in your company. And we see today like around 30 to 40,000 people apply for jobs at Miro every month, which is like a pretty crazy number of people, and we are very, very thankful for all people who trust in us and who are excited about us. And then with the funding, the same. I was trying to build a company that will acquire interest from outside and where investors will kind of reach out to us versus we will go and try fundraise from them. And I can say that if you set up those goals, if you think of strategies, how you can get there, it will work out at the end of the day. You can't do all things at the same time. You have to make them in a sequence. So first is like product that satisfies needs, then flywheel of new users, new customers coming to your door, then maybe HR brand or funding, depends on whatever your needs are. But the idea is like, as much as you build inbound, that will like make your life so much easier.
Great. I imagine there are insane challenges having such hypergrowth that Miro is having. So can you lay out one or two of these challenges and how you've tackled them?
Of course. So I think it's extremely challenging for all people to go through this. A lot of people are hiring managers, and the demand, internal demand for people is insane, and you are just continuously hiring. So you spend more than 50, 60, 70% of your time just hiring. And that is the job of every manager in the company, which is pretty intense and which is which is hard. And given our pretty high standards of who we trying to bring to the team, it's challenging because you have to run through a lot of conversations to get someone who will meet our expectations. At the same time, we are competing with a lot of other great companies, and you need to make sure that candidates are excited about the company and the journey we can get through together. That's hard. Another thing is hard, that everything is constantly changing. We repeat this insight that the only permanent thing that we have in the company is a change. So, and that's hard, because when it relates to you, you have to maybe change the team, you have to change the role, you have to change the responsibility area, you have to change this and that. People change around you. That's hard. And what we try to do is like to connect people around mission and values, so they don't feel that like everything changes. Mission, values, long-term thinking remains the same. Like principles, all those things remain the same, but a lot of things are changing. And for all of us, it's hard. I can tell you about myself. As I mentioned, like we went from around 200 people to almost 800 people now in last 14, 15 months. And my job as a CEO changed dramatically several times. It's not like you are a CEO of 200 people company and now 800 people company. No, it's like you're a CEO of very different companies and you have to do very different things, and you have to hire very different people. You have to think very differently on how to develop the company further. And you have to move from the mostly blue ocean that you were in to a red ocean, like in a very different strategies. All those things are kind of happening every other day. And that's what I would say are challenges, is that you have to adopt yourself and the team to make sure that people getting through this healthy and excited. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. And I want to know, in terms of the future of business, so we've talked a little bit about the physical of, are we going remote, are we going in person? But how about the collaboration, right? Because that's the very essence of Miro's offerings, the collaboration tools. Like, what are your thoughts on creating change, creating insight, creating ideas through collaboration, virtually through Miro tools versus in person? I mean, it kind of goes back to the question, is like, can we really ever replace the in-person experience online?
Yeah. So I think that the technology can help us to get to way better experiences that we have today. I believe that there is a ton of potential in a technology that we didn't yet unpack or realize. I saw recently this new video from Google, how they kind of almost build this presence of people, and where you can see someone next to you. I forgot the name of this project. They released it, I believe, this week actually, as a teaser, and I really like that. So I think that there is a ton of potential in technology. I don't think we will have teleport pretty soon, but I think we will have some way better ways to connect. And at the same time, I believe that there are a good amount of things that way better to do in person. So, like, as I said, I feel that video calls are more a transactional thing, because you do a lot of video calls, and like having another video call is like, you want to get rid of that. Like, if it's a 1 or 2 calls, of course you can speak about anything, but if you have like 10 calls, 12 calls a day, it's like hard. It's hard to keep relations, hard to talk about something that is not related to work, because you want to minimize that kind of screen time. And I believe that a lot of people would benefit from just having more free-form conversations, where you can walk around the room, where you can, kind of do something together, and so on. Also, I believe that body language in a pretty kind of complex situations and brainstorms, in strategic sessions, in some hard conversations, is very important. And we don't know, as I said, like how people feel before the call, after the call. Of course, we can ask, but we can't observe. And that observation plays a huge role from my perspective in relationship building, in empathy to each other, and so on. So I believe those things are really important, at least for me as a person. And I actually believe that in the future, from the effectiveness perspective, for sure, the technology will enable us in a lot of ways. But from more person-to-person connection, like from, I would say, maybe cultural or just interpersonal relations, I don't believe technology can replace can replace a physical presence of people.
Great. So my next question, I want to know about where does Miro go from here? Your clients right now include Netflix, Deloitte, PwC. So you have a large share of Fortune 500, or at least Fortune 100 companies, correct me if I'm wrong. But I want to know, so how do you grow? I mean, do you go for the SMEs? Do you go for the mid-sized companies? Do you go for Asia? I mean, which markets? Is it a certain geography that's inspiring you right now? Or is it a certain industry or size of company? I mean, where do you go from here?
All of that, I'd like to answer you shortly, but yeah, we are trying to build a company that supports teams across the globe. And if you think of enterprises, they consist of teams. So for us, it doesn't matter if it's a team of 3 people or 5 people who are taking startup from nothing to something, or it's a huge global corporation that has like tens of thousands of teams within it. We want to kind of deliver our solution to teams, and we want to see those teams kind of are more effective and more creative with the solution we provide. So in terms of regions, we are spreading across the globe. We are a truly international company. You will see several offices opening pretty soon. Like we recently opened Germany, we opened Berlin as a product engineering hub, we opened Munich as an go-to-market hub, and we are expanding across the globe. So there will be several other offices that will be announced pretty soon, and we hired leaders for them. And we also trying to, as you asked, like what segments, it's like across all industries, across all segments of SMBs, startups, enterprises, because we believe that like ideas and kind of innovations happening like with all of them, and we are market leader today in a still relatively free market. Is like not that kind of not that crowded market in terms of competition. So we want to take them all, and I'm excited about like what Zoom did, for example, because this is the company that has success in all verticals, in all segments, in all markets. That's something that inspires us to do as well.
Mm-hmm. And it might surprise some people. I mean, do you get met with surprise when you know Andrey, the guy at Miro, says, "Yeah, we're opening offices. We're opening physical offices," because it's like, you know, we're at the Running Remote conference, right? So how do you respond to that? And I think you can understand where I'm coming from, because it's like you would think that you would be the biggest advocate of remote teams, remote learning. And I know you've talked a little bit about the importance of in-person, but can you just expand on that? Like, how do you justify the ROI on the cost of offices, as well as if, you know, Miro's best value proposition is when there is cross-border collaboration or cross-technology collaboration?
Sure.
Sorry, Andrey, one more. I just want to remind our audience to please submit your questions. We're going to get to those right after this. So if you do have a question, submit your question, and we'll do our best to get them to him.
Yeah, sure. As I mentioned, we believe in the local communities. We want people to stay connected to the company. We want people to stay to build new social connections, to build relations, friends in the company, and to go through both hard times and not that hard times. Like now we're in hypergrowth, everyone is like have a lot of work, but there are different stages along the journey for every company, and you need to build the culture and the relations where people can get through together through different kind of situations. And I personally believe that these interpersonal relations are very important for that. That's one thing. The second thing is, yes, we are using our solution. As I said, like we have currently 9 offices. We're going to have like 11 pretty soon and beyond. And you have to kind of collaborate across those offices. You have to connect with, across those offices, and teams need to come up with some joint projects together. So, and the solution, the technology enables that type of collaboration. And I believe that our product is not only applicable for those who are working remotely or fully distributed, because as I said, like some companies run the whole company on our product, not because they're remote, but because it becomes their team hub, their company hub, their knowledge hub, their project hub, and they do that in Miro instead of other products that you can use for that. So Miro is not only for remote collaboration, and we never designed it only for remote collaboration. Miro is a solution that allow you to better think, to brain dump, to co-create, to have the single source of truth, like as I said, team hub for your team. So yeah, it's not just a remote thing, but I also believe that every company, every team should do whatever they feel is right for them. And if Miro can be a great solution for them, great. If not, okay, they can find something better, and that's also very okay. I'm not trying to make every company, every team on Miro tomorrow. I'm trying to solve the problems of people whose kind of problems fit our solution. That's what I'm trying to do. And if someone feels that, yeah, we should advocate for remote work, no, we are a distributed company which needs Miro as well. That's that's pretty. But
Yeah.
I believe that there is a lot of great companies built as a fully remote, and we'll learn from them, of course. Like I appreciate all of them, and we will see in the next 3-5 years how it plays out at a bigger scale. Because as for now, the majority of fully remote companies were companies like of a smaller size. There were several outliers who were bigger, but still they're mid-sized companies. But there are no like huge enterprises who are fully remote. So we'll see in the next 3-5 years how it plays at a bigger scale, because this is a big experiment for the society also.
I want to know, like, kind of a more leadership question of Andrey's leadership style. What is one thing you really look for in hiring people? Because you said you get tens of thousands of applications regularly to work there. You also said that your hiring process is very robust, and it's one of those, you know, companies that you do multiple rounds and meet multiple people, which is great. So what do you look for when it comes to hiring the right person? And also, I'm curious, any red flags?
Yeah, sure. So there are several things that we look at. One is humility. The second is collaboration. Those are kind of top things that are kind of go, no go for us. And then there are a bunch of other things around our core values. So we have this play as a team to win the world, and this is a collaboration thing that I mentioned. There is an impact. We want to see people create the impact to change the status quo, to live in a better, to live together in a better place. There is empathy. We want people to emphasize to customers, to users, to each other in the company. And there is a big thing about learning. What people learn, how they develop themselves, what they learn from like whatever situations they got into, what they learn from customers constantly, and how they can apply those learnings. These are kind of major things that we look at when we hire people. Of course, they have to have in place all hard skills to do the job, and of course, like some soft skills that are required for their job. But beyond that, we are looking at this. And yeah, and the red flags can be opposite to what I said. if someone is not really kind of into collaboration, but more about competition inside the organization with the peers, we're not the good fit for that person, because we want to see people collaborating together towards shared goals versus trying to compete against each other. That will not work with us. And a bunch of other examples.
Great. With that, I'd like to open it up to questions from the audience. Let's see if we can get some help from Liam navigating the questions.
Hi guys, that was awesome, and we're going to get into Q&A right now. We've got a great collection of questions, and Andrey, if you don't want to answer any of these questions, you can just say pass, because some of them are pretty interesting. If you let me just get to the first one here. All right, so with a 50 million, and this guy knows your homework, or he's done his homework, or she. With a $50 million fundraise pre-pandemic, your investors must be pretty happy. What do you think the round would be now? Any spilt milk on that?
Yeah, they're happy, and they are investing more in the company whenever they have a chance. So, we didn't plan our next fundraise, but we try to do what makes sense for business. And until we know where we will deploy that capital, until we know why we need to fundraise, we're not doing that. So we are kind of trying to be pretty thoughtful about like what to do and what not to do. So, and we are happy with where we are with our partners, Accel, Iconiq, Altair. They're all amazing partners for us. And we are exploring with some new potential partners, but there are no exact plans when and how much and what valuation to fundraise. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I mean, as I said, like we're profitable as a business.
Yeah, you're in a perfect position right now, just from a revenue perspective, from a profitability perspective. I'm sure there's investors that are trying to like kick down your door right now to be able to try to get a couple bucks in to your next round. So it's very exciting to be in that position. I'm sure a lot of people that are watching right now would love to be in that position. Next question here is, what was your most successful B2B sales approach? So I'm guessing probably they're just really looking for, do you run a sales-based organization, or are you more product-focused fundamentally?
I'm as a person is a product guy more, but I think my sweet spot is on the intersection between product and go-to-market. So I'm kind of figuring out things that connect the product and the model to distribute that product. So in terms of the sale, I'm not running the sales org. There's a chief revenue officer who runs it, and there are sales leaders. So in terms of our sales approach, we do land and expand. I strongly believe, as I mentioned, in this inbound approach, where you can, like through different kind of tactics, bring end users or teams into the platform, land, and then expand from there. And we see $1 million deals happening in several weeks, because people from those companies are huge Miro kind of fans, and they adopted it for a while ago. So recently we had a deal that happened in several weeks, but we start to reverse engineer the whole deal, and we recognize that the first team was landed on our platform in 2016. So they start to use it, and then it converts in several weeks into a multi-million-dollar deal. It's like after 4 years just, but we never touched that account. We never spoke to salespeople, to the procurement or to decision makers on that side, and then it converts pretty quickly. If people love that, if people are your kind of champions inside the organization. So I strongly believe in that approach, where you have to, especially if you run the business that allow to do that, where you earn the user's love through delivering value and experience, and then it will convert into like bigger contracts or something else. So that's land and expand based on the like users' love and users' engagement with the platform.
And does anyone, and this is my question that's attached to it, does anyone get comped on that? Or, you know, does CS get comped, or does sales, or is it just basically, hey, you know what, this is the product that's actually expanding that client?
Of course, we compensate sales, we compensate success for different things from LinkedIn accounts or expanding them. But the idea is that you can't, from my perspective, build an organization where you have a missing piece in terms of like product marketing, success, sales. Like you need to have all pieces in place. There are some outliers like Atlassian who are doing this for a long time through partners without like much of the sales, but now they're getting into that. Right. But the rest of the majority of successful companies, what they did all things kind of at a very high quality. So they build a product that people love, and they layered that by kind of amazing marketing communications, by demand gen programs, by brand, by strong sales people, both like inside sales and outbound sales, by customer success that drives the adoption of purchase licenses, and making sure that people becoming kind of engaged with the platform, and so on. So you have all pieces to work together as a puzzle, rather than trying to crack enterprise world with just 2 product managers. Right. It's hard to make happen. Yeah, especially if you go up market. If you do like small checks, self-serve business, like up to whatever 5K, 10K type of deals, you can do that, like on average. If you're trying to land like multi-million-dollar contracts, man, it's hard. It's like you have to build the whole organization.
Yeah, before we jumped on, we talked about this, where I was just seeing these deals that were coming on, and it was like self-serve deals that were 6-figure and sometimes even 7-figure deals that just popped into our system. And I was like, how is this possible? And then we actually had a big discussion internally about like, well, who gets comped, right? So like the sales guy's like, well, you know, I sent him an email back in 2012, and that's what ended up getting him, you know, I want to get comped for that, or something, you know, something along that line. So it was very interesting to kind of see how that all kind of came to fruition. And for us, we basically just said, no one gets comped. It's the product that gets comped. We're going to hire more devs. Here's one that is a little bit of a left field here, which is, how do you adapt company culture with such insane growth? You're basically in uncharted territory at 200 to 700 people. And I'm assuming it's just, there are 700 people organizations, but just that amount of expansion is really uncharted territory in such a small amount of time.
Yeah, I mentioned that before. So we try to scale things based on our values, and we've built a people team, and there is a sub team and people's team that is deliberately focused on the people design and culture, and building the teams and building best practices for those teams. So that's a focus, and we have, I think today, around 5 people only in that team, and a bunch of learning program managers. So as I said, like to get into this hyper growth without experience and without leaders who know how to build for this scale, is extremely hard. And I rely a lot on the leaders with who I work, because they saw how organizations can look like at a bigger scale, what needs to be done, what are good and what are bad. So you're not trying to figure out things on your own. You just try to bring in the right leaders who know what awesome looks like and who can build it together with you, and who you can trust. And that's the approach. Because if you have to figure out everything and do a bunch of mistakes, it's like you don't have time, unfortunately. We plan to have like 1,200 people by the end of this year, 12 to 1,300, which is insane. And you need to build all the infrastructure for this team to be successful in the long term, and you can't figure out those things on your own, especially if you never worked at the bigger scale companies.
Well, follow up to that, you mentioned trust. And I think in the kind of the soul of this question is you move from 200 to 700 people, you want to go to 1,200 people. How do you quickly develop trust with someone that's you've worked with for like 3 months, as an example? Do you have any kind of cheat codes on that one?
So you have to be very kind of candid with that person. You have to be very vulnerable with that person. So it all starts with you, and I'm trying to be as vulnerable as possible with people who joins me in the journey. And what really helps to build trust is a feedback culture. So whatever happens, like good or bad, you have to share that feedback. And more feedback you share with each other, the more trust you have, because you it's hard, but it connects you. It allows you to get through some complex situations and to discuss those situations, and that creates trust, like putting layer on layer to get to know better each other and to understand the perspectives you come from, each of you, and to go through that, and like that creates trust. And if you do it consciously, it will surprise you how much you can get out of that. Like sharing as fast as possible, be vulnerable with others, and be open for feedback. That's how I would describe that.
We've got plenty more questions, but unfortunately we're out of time. It was awesome to be able to kind of borrow your brain, and I'm sure you're going through crazy stuff right now. So it's really awesome that you were able to take that time out and teach us all about this. Uptin, why don't you close us out?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Liam, for that. And Andrey, thank you so much for your time. I heard you have a couple of beers to attend to, getting to be Friday night. So enjoy yourself, enjoy your weekend, and best of luck with your continued growth. We look forward to catching up again, hopefully soon. And thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you joining today, and have a great weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.